Hey, what's up? Doing a quick betting recap of the UFC 305 card. Had another losing week on the UFC this weekend, so kind of disappointing, especially considering that I actually did well on all of the other events that I was betting on over the past week. So I actually came out on top personally, but for these thumbnails and for like my official tracking, I can only include what I'm advertising in my prediction videos, and I'm only doing prediction videos for the UFC, at least at the moment. So again, -4 units, not great. We'll get into the exact bets that I told everyone to place. So these are the bets here. You can see that the big losses really came from Steve Urseg and Kulibao. I mean, Kulibao only dropped 2 units, but that fight could have gone the other way easily. I think most people actually had Kulibao winning. He massively outstruck Ramos, and that's like a $475 swing rate, 4.75 unit swing. So actually, if Kulibao had gone to decision, I would have came out on top. Can't really say anything about like Rosenstrike to Ivasa under 1.5 because that went decision. That wasn't close. The Urseg fight, I mean, Urseg got stomped, so that wasn't close either. But the Kulibao fight, that was kind of close. So uh, yeah, unfortunate. Those things happen. So here's how I actually did, and you can see here on the top right, I actually came out plus $35 this week. I had a few very good performances on PFL, Cage Fury, uh, the Anthony Pettis card, and then the Brave card. And this week I was making roughly $8.20 bets. I did have one big bet, and you can see here I had one bet of $57 on the Anthony Pettis card. And that's because essentially the Anthony Pettis card is filled with mismatches. So they had a -5,000 and a -2,000 and a few other -500s. And all I did was I just parlayed all of them together. And I think it was a 4 leg parlay and it was worth what, like -200 at the end of it. And they were all computer bets too. And I just put 57 on it and wound up working. I usually don't do these parlays, but took the risk this time. I just figured I might as well, and worked out. So that was great. But yeah, you can see the UFC card, big L here, -$62. So that kind of kept the profits down this week. Here's how I did by fight. So the Jack Jenkins fight, I predicted it pretty well. I mean, you can't take too much credit for it because everyone had Jack Jenkins. I mean, he was a -800 for a reason. But I had him first round KO and stuff, and just did not happen. It wound up being another third round, or a late fight KO loss for Herbert. So couldn't even come out on top there, even though I had 3 of the 4 bets correct. The Kulibao fight 0 for 2, Urseg 0 for 3. I mean, we already talked about this. I mean, overall, I'm happy about the card just because I would have gladly lost like 15 units if it meant Drickus beat Izzy, and Drickus beat Izzy. So that's all that I really cared about. At least emotionally. Moving on. So usually at this point in my recap videos so far, I kind of do like the bets I should have placed or other good spots, that would have been good value. I'm just changing it up a little bit this week. So instead, I get there are a lot of numbers here, so maybe it's overwhelming. Maybe I won't do this, but you can see here in the top chart we have like all the fights from this week, and we can see like the R1B, that's the rating of the fighter 1 before the fight, R2B rating of fighter 2 before the fight, and then R1A is the rating after, R2A is the rating after. So you can see like, for example, with Drickus, he was 1905 before the fight started. He beat Izzy. He took 51 points from Izzy, and now he's 1956. And conversely, Izzy lost 51 points, so he's 1741. And there's a rounding error there, so he actually lost 52 points. It is what it is. And then we have the win attribution. So I've talked about this before in like a video I made 4 years ago when I first started the channel. But basically, the win attribution is if there's a KO or submission, it's a definitive result. You win 100% of the fight, right? Definitive. And if it's a decision, well, we have to look at like how the judges scored it, but not just the judges. We also look at the media scoring and the fan scoring. So I go to MMA decisions. I aggregate every single this scorecard that's on that site, and again, I just aggregate it. So if you looked at MMA decisions, actually Dan Hooker won about 47% of the fight, right? Because it was a very 50-50 fight. If you win 47% of the fight and you win it by split, you can't call it a robbery. It's just very, very close. Maybe slightly more people had Gamrot. Whereas like the Ramos fight, it was like 41%. It's not saying that 41% had Ramos winning. It's just if you aggregate all the total scorecards, he won 41% of the rounds, right? And this is a lot closer to being considered a robbery, unfortunately for us. And then the craziest one is the Jairzinho fight. I mean, almost everyone had 30-27 Jairzinho. Maybe a few had 29-28. So he won 91% of the fight there, 91% of the rounds. And yet there's one judge who scored it 30-27 for Tuivasa, which is wild. So that's what you can find up here. Then the other cool thing, I guess, you can gather from this chart is that actually half of the fights, 6 of the 12 fights, the underdog won. So you actually would have came out on top a few units if you just blindly bet every single underdog, right? Actually, probably would have come up on top a lot more because I don't think anyone was betting Herbert Burns or Alex Reyes. So you probably could have just faded those fights and just bet all the other underdogs. Anyway, these bottom tables down here. So these are my UFC rankings by ELO rating. And I split them up by the 5 weight classes that were in the main card. So if we start from left to right, the far left, this is the middleweight rankings. You see Dricus, number 1, he's the champion. And the highlighted purple cells, those are the fighters that actually fought most recently. So Dricus is number 1. You can actually see he's not even that high, right? He's ranked number 8 at middleweight. Maybe technically 7 just because the champion is not technically ranked, right? So that's why I went down to 16. And Kamaru Usman's ranked as a middleweight because his most recent fight was at middleweight. Kind of how I do it. Then we move on to like flyweight. Moreno and Pantoja are the top 2 spots. But Kai Kara-France actually moved into the top 5. I still have Mokaev in here. I just figured, he fought so recently. I get he got cut, or not re-signed, but he fought so recently. I figured I'd just still leave him in here for now. I'll take him out later. Then Steve Erceg, I was actually surprised about this. Steve Erceg is actually pretty low on these rankings. So now he's not even in the top 15 for contenders. He's number 17. So pretty low for Steve Erceg. And we go on to lightweight. I mean, Gamrot, he was ranked number 7 before the fight. Still ranked number 7. He only lost 29 ELO points, so didn't really make a difference in these rankings here. I guess that was enough for Dan Hooker to jump BSD and put himself in the top 15. Heavyweight, Jairzinho's number 9. Actually, what's crazy is so Tuivasa's number 17 now. But not only is he number 17, but he's actually in the 1400s. So he's actually very low, right? Whereas you can see like for these other weight classes, I mean, look at welterweight. Welterweight's the one on the far right. The number 17 guy is 1674, Vicente Luque, 200 points higher. Some of these other weight classes like 250 points higher. So just goes to show that for heavyweight, outside of maybe like the top 7, it's pretty bad. It's pretty pathetic out there. And then finally welterweight, Prates, he's in the top 15 now. Looked phenomenal. And the Leech, he's outside the top 20, but I still think he's a decent fighter. I think the Leech can give a lot of these guys above him some problems still. I'm not going to make any claims that he'll beat any particular fighter, but there's 20 guys ranked ahead of him. I'm sure he could beat maybe like 3 or 4. So still a good fighter. But anyway, yeah, these are my ELO rankings, by ELO rating. I'm more, it's kind of like the niche of the channel, so I think it's good to just show where people stack up. Anyway, I guess here's the last slide. So here's my UFC performance by event so far. And you can see we started off the channel very good, went up 10 units, but we've lost 3 in a row since then. So I think technically I'm down about, I mean, you can do the calculations yourself. I'm down about 10, 11 units on uh, UFC events, which is again unfortunate because if you include all of my other regional MMA bets or like PFL, Bellator, or whatever, I'm actually on top. So it is what it is, but you can only advertise what you know what I tell you to do. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll come out with my breakdown or predictions for the next UFC card probably today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And again, don't fade me just yet. You know, maybe if I go like on a 5, 6, 7 event losing streak or have like some -2, -20 unit events here and there, that's going to look bad, but just 3 events in a row where where I'm also profiting off of other things that granted I'm not telling you to bet, but you know losing streaks happen, so I wouldn't get too cautious about what's going on so far. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys later. Peace.